let's continue our journey in the Leningrad Dutch with a model game from 2007, D4, F5. The game was played between Bromberger Stefan and Bartel Matthias in the Warsaw AIG Life Rapid 7th. G3, Knight F6, Bishop G2, G6, C3, Bishop G7, Queen B3. As you can see, as I pointed out many times, once you move this pawn, you have this weak diagonal. Why I call it weak? Because when you do this, it's really going to be a mess, right? And so you must be aware of that. Once you're aware of that, obviously you change your plans accordingly to avoid that it becomes a chessboard tragedy, right? Knight C6, Knight H3, D5. So here we have a Leningrad Dutch, but as you can see, we have a D5 instead of D6. D5 is needed at this point. And it's possible that you will also play this, so the pawn structure that we are getting is totally different from what we have seen up to now. But it would be kind of absurd if we don't adapt to the move order that our opponent plays over the board, okay? Because that's really dangerous if you just go on autopilot and play the same line no matter what. Knight F4, again, big problem. What do you do here? You need to defend, right? You need to create a solid situation. Knight D2, castle, castle, B6. And why this B6 is needed? Because you have this problem, okay? And you would have also this problem at the same time. This is becoming overloaded as work. So you don't want a piece to do the job of 3 different pieces. So B6 is a good move because it allows the bishop to decide if it wants to go here or maybe here as development, okay? But in any case, you need to take away something that white is threatening and wouldn't allow you to develop your bishop. So this is the opening. You need to develop your pieces, and that's what black is trying to do. Unfortunately, once you move this, you create weaknesses, and white attack one of these weaknesses, which is the bishop, the knight on c6. Again, this is overloaded if you just try to defend this and this at the same time. So what did he do? He played queen e8, okay? So that's the idea. Rook e1. To me, honestly, up to this point, we are at move 11, it seems to me that white is on a kind of autopilot. Why do I say autopilot? Because he castled on this side when he could have created an attack. And now he's trying to push maybe this, but this square, it's really control, and it's a big fight, in my opinion. So I don't know if that should have been the plan. But look how black continues. Bishop d7, okay? And now this queen is start to be uneasy because there could be a discovery of some kind that you don't like to have. So the first thing a grandmaster level player does, in this case Bromberger is 2491, so he is a grandmaster level, move away the queen. So or you protect or you move away, but you don't leave your pieces hanging, okay? And what does Bartel Matthias does, a 2600 rated player? He starts with a simple move, rook c8, that is an attack again on the queen, okay? So imagine how big is this thing, because you need to start to visualize all the pieces what they can do, okay, like a blade of a sword. Knight f3, knight e4, the diagonal start to open. This could be a problem, right? Once you are able to remove this pawn, all these attacks are real. b3, knight a5. Can you see it now? Can you see it? Knight e5. I hope you understood already from what I told you what is the next move. What does black want to do? Why black played the rook c8? And you already see all of this if you understood, because this is an X-ray attack. He plays c5. That's a fact. That's a fact. And look, everything is going. Okay, so that's what you should visualize, understand. F3. Now please pause the video and tell me what is the next move by black. Pause the video and tell me what is the next move by black. I hope you should have understood by now that this is going to be a very, very sharp game. Okay, like me, I hope you paused the video and you took your time and found the move that black is going to play. Once more, you will notice grandmasters don't want to return back. They don't return back. They only go forward. Go forward means boom, knight takes c3. This is obviously a all-out attack. Like I show you most of one time, the lines are all opening up. It's going to become a mess. Queen takes c3. C takes d4, attacking the queen. Queen takes d4. And now there is the move that you should have seen if you have played knight takes c3. The real reason is knight c6. Why knight c6? Because obviously or everything falls down, included this one, or you have to give up something. White takes, and then of course here you still don't get the queen, otherwise you would have insufficient compensation. What do? You take this that is defending the queen, and now the queen has the big problem that must move, right? Queen d3 and bishop takes a1, and now you can see why black played all of this 6 against 3. Okay, so he got a good advantage from this. Okay, obviously at this point you must understand that also white will react, right, with bishop a3. This is another diagonal on which you're going to have problems when you play the Dutch. Not only the Leningrad Dutch, it could be the Stonewall Dutch or the classical Dutch. It's always happening. Bishop g7, bishop takes f8, queen takes f8, e4. Again, now you see, however, that we have an advantage that is not big as it was before, right? But is still an advantage. And the advantage is not only related to material, it's an advantage related to the position, in the sense that if you see the black pieces in general, they control more. This control this big thing, this control this big thing. This is like the counterpart, just a pawn at the moment. But the center, it's a little more in the hands of black compared to white. So black continue with this move, rook c3, queen d1, and now you understand why he took with the queen and not with the bishop, because the bishop really needed to control that diagonal. Now the queen controls another diagonal, which is this, boom. This is a diagonal that you find in other openings, so try to remember that some diagonals are dangerous once you move this pawn, which is always the same, right? Once you move f pawn, some weakness create that can be used by the pieces. King h1, and now he plays this. F takes e4. F takes e4. Now you don't take back. Why? Because you have a pass pawn and it's protected. And this is a big problem. This is the real advantage from all this exchange of pieces, that he has a pass pawn that is protected. So it's great. Obviously at this time also white wants to gain kind of activity, piece activity. So what does white play? e5. It's protected, yes, but most of all it's because it's giving this diagonal for white. So the difference now is this is still a kind of pawn, but he has a diagonal. This was a pawn, now he became a bishop again, because it's not protecting pawn, he's moving, right? Now try to think in black terms, okay? And this is why the space repetition doesn't work, because in chess you have to think. I told you that this became a bishop, this is a half bishop because it's still protecting a pawn, it's not doing much, it doesn't have this long diagonal control like this one, right? So what do you want to do is to exchange a very active piece of the enemy with one of yours that is not active, right? So what do you think black played? Black played bishop c6 because you want to give away this for this good one, right? Obviously white is not stupid, and once he saw bishop c6 he noticed that there is this, but he cannot take right away because he would take and then he would get it back. Just to make an example in case you didn't see it, no? If you take right away, obviously take, and then you can play something like this and you take back, right? You take this. So clearly you cannot play that move, okay? So let me put the pieces back in place. I hope I did it right. If not, feel free to complain. So what did white do? White played queen g4, attacking twice, right? Unfortunately, obviously, you exchange immediately, and you gain a little tempo with this. With this queen c6, right? King h3, and now you play this rook c2. This is kind of scary because it's becoming a kind of mating net, right? The king doesn't have many squares, so you want to be careful. So what happens is queen takes e6, obviously, queen takes e6, knight takes e6, and then one thing that you have learned from maybe Nimzowitsch is that the pass pawn must be pushed. Oh, d3, right? That's a great game. Now you have two choices as white. One is knight d4 and one is taking there. Let me show you first taking there. In the game white played knight d4. Okay, so let's see what happens with knight takes g7. Okay, obviously king takes g7. This is obviously an interesting thing to count, right? Because after all, you think, what if I play e6? Well, probably this arrives first, right? And then it blocks back. So he played rook d1, d2, a4, king f7, king g4, king e6 and king f4. Now, how do you evaluate the position? That's all very easy here. Is white winning? Is white losing? Is a draw? How do you evaluate this position? Is the thing that matters. And why it matters? Because you see, now let's say you also gain a kind of advantage, but now you are in the endgame. And if you don't know how to evaluate a position in the endgame, what do? So let's return back, right? And see what else white did. Let me see if it's correct, this position. Okay, so we were here and we saw what happens after knight takes g7. Notice this was a rapid, okay? So rapid is mistake galore, right? Knight d4, what was played in the game. Rook takes e2, e6, king f8, rook f1, king e8, knight b5, bishop e5, it controls the square, right? Rook e1, d2, rook takes e5, d1 queen, knight c7 and king e7, and here the result was that black won. Why black won in this position? That's a good question, right? Because let's say that he does this. Check. What do? If you play this, this is going to have a queen, right? But there is a problem. Notice that here, if he can go here, is a kind of checkmate, and probably there is some other way to give white some problems. Again, as you can see, if we don't have a computer, we have to think on our own. So what do you do here? Very, very interesting situation. Let me think a second, okay? Okay, I fought for 10 minutes, and the problem is the following. I want to take these two pieces, but if a queen is here, it's not gonna work, and I have to give him a queen back, no matter what. If I take these two pieces, I win. Maybe it's not the best position, maybe there was something else before, but what I thought at the end, because I couldn't find a checkmate, was to give check here, because he plays this. At this point I do play this. He gets a queen back, but I take this. And now I have a clear advantage that should be enough to win the game. Again, not the most beautiful thing, but again, it's a rapid. So what do you want? And I think that's the reason why white lost, or maybe it was for time. I think also another interesting thing, however, would be to analyze what happens on this, if maybe there is something else. And of course, I let you do the work. And there was also another interesting position that could have been analyzed before. So as you can see, it's not only the opening that matters, but it's definitely also the endgame that is very, very important, because it makes the difference between converting an advantage into a win. Hope you enjoyed this beautiful game. Let's go to the next.